Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 95. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us for this Friday show. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to send you to school today.
Don't know what that means.
I'm sending you to a couple more colleges today.
We have been busy on the Pro Day circuit.
Absolutely. We're going to be busy today. We'll see just how busy Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert are today as well, too. COVID and everything, they sure have been making the rounds as of late. It's been a busy, I guess, last 7 days for them totally, hasn't it?
It has. They were at Penn State yesterday. Are you surprised they haven't been in any events, at least not to our knowledge, separately? I thought they would maximize it by going to separate places, but every time that one's been at a location, the other has joined them.
I'm not overly surprised. No, I kind of envisioned them doing that this year. To be honest with you, and I think it makes it even more interesting when we try to pick out when we try to find out who the third one is. And I think there's a lot to be gleaned from that as well too, finding out who the third person was. And you've obviously been able to do a good job of that. And I think kind of some of the info. Look, everybody by now should know that Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert were at the Penn State Pro Day on Thursday, but I don't know who the third person was who we found out is a little intriguing there.
It is. It was new tight ends coach Alfredo Roberts, who basically was the sole man putting tight end Pat Freiermuth through all of his workouts. Now, Freiermuth did not actually do any testing coming off shoulder injury that limited him to just 4 games this past season, but he did participate in all the on-field drills. And afterwards, we talked to Pat Freiermuth. Again, we're kind of attending these Zoom calls, and he said that Roberts is his guy. They've met several times. That Freiermuth had met with Tomlin and Colbert a couple of days ago, had a great meeting, would love to play for Pittsburgh. So we may have a new kind of dark horse candidate for Pittsburgh, even as early as number 24. I know that sounds super early, but I would not discount it based on all the information we have right now.
Man, it does sound super early for him, though, right? I mean, he is. I have to go back and look a little bit more at his blocking and all. I think that's one thing I think I'm going to do over the weekend with him. I tell you what, he doesn't like being called Baby Gronk. So probably need to stop with that aspect of it. But overall, I mean, I kind of envisioned him being more of a second-round player from what I've seen so far. Now, is he the type player that will fall to 55 overall? I don't know. I think that's definitely debatable. I think he'll definitely be on the board when the Steelers pick at 24 overall, if that's the way that they want to go. But will he last to the second round pick? Was it 55 overall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I come in on Freiermuth, and I tweeted that out yesterday, and I've kind of said that all along with him, is that he's in that gray area where arguably it's probably a shade too early for him to go at 24, but the odds of him being there at 55 as the second tight end off the board probably aren't great. Now, he's not guaranteed to be the second tight end off the board. There's also Brevin Jordan from the U, but I think NFL mock draft database has him as a overall consensus, like 46th overall selection. So you're gambling if he's going to be there at 55. It's not impossible, but I don't like those odds. So it's kind of, if you want to take him, you take him at 24, but that feels a little bit early. But again, in this draft process, what does early even mean? Just because Daniel Jeremiah ranks him some way, or Mel Kiper ranks him some way, teams have their own boards, and so far Freiermuth is checking every single box that Steelers look for.
He certainly is, and I think they have him right now. Gil Brandt at least released his initial Hot 100 version 1.0 for top prospects, and I still don't think that not many people come close to Gil Brandt with gauging these people now. Obviously, this is still early in the process, and I think Gil Brandt's top 150 come time that's released closer to the draft is a lot more I think there's a lot more to be gleaned from it there. But he's got Freiermuth 38th overall, so that would be, man, if the Steelers took him at 24 overall. There's no rule saying that they can't do that, right. But and look, I mean, when you look at Gil Brandt's top 100, top 150s over the years, the usual outliers in all of that have been mostly the Steelers picks. You go back to Artie Burns and I forget all the ones that have been kind of the closest off where Gil Brandt's rankings are. Once again, not that means anything. It's just a means of kind of gauging, where people think that these kids are going to go. But Freiermuth being 38, that's right slap dab in the middle almost of the Steelers' first and second round pick.
It is. It's funny you mentioned it. I just looked it up. Guess where Gil Brandt had Artie Burns ranked back in 2016 when the Steelers took him 25th overall?
Oh, man, that was I remember it's way off. I mean,
remember how far off?
I want to say it was like 40-something picks off or something like that.
More than that. He had Burns ranked 99th
That's
overall.
Right.
And the Steelers took him at 25, so there's almost a 70-pick difference there. So, this means almost nothing to Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin. They pick who they pick, and they like who they like. But the fact is, Colbert, Tomlin, at his pro day, they met with him. They had the position coach work out. That shows obvious interest at a position that I've always argued that it has to be addressed, not only for this year, but especially for next season. And tight end is arguably the second toughest position to transition to for college players outside of a quarterback. And so you're not drafting him to play and start and contribute super heavily this year, but for next year, you're going to need a starter. You can't draft a tight end when you absolutely need one. Otherwise, you're really going to be in a tough spot. So just don't sleep on Pat Freiermuth. Now, again, just 24 too early. I think you can make that argument. But the Steelers obviously show some interest in him.
I mean, there's obviously some interest in there, and the way Freiermuth talked about the Steelers' new tight ends coach being his guy and all like that. Boy, the hug those two, it's like they are long lost friends catching up and all like that. I don't guess you. I mean, is he one of the cleanest? I guess outside of the shoulder. Coming off the shoulder surgery there, but is he one of the cleanest, maybe prospects, potential first-round guys?
How do you define cleanest?
I mean, he is what he is. You know exactly kind of what you're getting there. You know the background. You know the age. Obviously, you had the Blues Clues with the Tomlin and the Colbert there, and the position coach. I mean, cleanest as far as hard to ignore.
Yeah, no, I think there's one of the biggest sirens going off saying they're interested in this guy for sure. And I think from an off-field standpoint, from a character, work ethic, things like that, I think he checks all those boxes as well, which is incredibly important for Pittsburgh. They've always done the hearts and smarts things over the years. So yeah, I agree with you there. And I do love that we have pro day season back so we can evaluate hugs. I guess I tweeted out that clip of the bro hug from Alfredo Robertson. Yeah, it seems like that he's a big fan.
What are your thoughts on Freiermuth from what you've watched so far?
I like him. I think he's one of the more well-rounded tight ends. I don't know if he's obviously not a Kyle Pitts in terms of the movement and overall athleticism, but I mean that's such a gold standard. It's like the Vernon Davis standard that most guys aren't going to be able to achieve and match. But I think he's a really good tight end. I think he's got good size. The blocking probably needs a little bit of work, but I think he has the 1-2 in the frame to be able to support that. And you know my thoughts on needing to draft a tight end and draft one early. So I'm not saying that I would necessarily take Freiermuth at 24. I'm not entirely sure where I fall. I do feel like that's a little bit too early, but I do like the guy and I like the fit.
I mean, everybody's probably screaming right now, well, you just trade down, but the odds of them, if they trade down, it wouldn't be out of the first round, you wouldn't think, right?
I wouldn't think so, but I fully support and endorse that idea, and I'll probably write about that before the draft actually kicks off next month. But, it always takes two to tango. You're not trading down tomorrow, or you'll be trading down when you're on the clock. And
you mean you don't push a button and it happens?
Yeah, you just can't, will some team to trade down with you. So easier said than done, and something that wouldn't happen until basically you're on the clock anyway, and teams can see what they want to move up for and all that. So I'm all for the idea of trading down, but, of course, it's always easier said than done.
The thing is, boy, how great would it be if you could get him at 29 or 30 overall and pick up, I don't know, a third-round pick in the process,
Yeah.
you certainly could use that, couldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think you have so many needs to address. Obviously, you're not going to fill those things in free agency. And I think in a draft like this, the more darts you can throw at the dartboard because of how difficult this draft is with lack of information, lack of a season, combine, etc., the more picks you can have, I think the better off you are.
And let's face it, the other kids that were there are high-profile guys, but I can't see them drafting either one of those other higher-rated Penn State kids.
What about Parsons? I mean, Parsons has the elite athleticism. I mean, Tomlin, aptly called him and Oa and all those guys a freak show yesterday, which is what they were. Some people think Parsons will slip. Now, he has the off-the-field character concerns, which kind of tells me that Pittsburgh probably wouldn't draft him. But
and that's part of that. And didn't he opt out too?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure. But, I mean, him next to Devin Bush would be a pretty strong combo from an on-field standpoint.
Sure, but it goes back to me saying which is the cleaner prospect here.
Mm-hmm.
Look, he's a freak, and Mike Tomlin said that was a freak show.
Right. He ran like 4.35 at 246 pounds. OO ran like 4.36 at 257. Insane.
Right. Yeah, it really was insane there. I see them. And the fact, I mean, if you were that interested too, wouldn't Jerry Olsofsky or Keith Butler been there? I would have thought.
No, you can only bring a third, yeah. So maybe that fair.
And if your tight end coach is already well aware of what's going on with Freiermuth, there'd be no reason to bring him if you really want to take a longer look at Micah Parsons, right? So
sure, that's fair.
In other words, I think we learned a lot from that pro day, more so about maybe who didn't show up as far as who did.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Obviously, the interest in Freiermuth is high and someone that we really need to consider. It's just that weird gray area, like I mentioned, of, if you want to mock him to Pittsburgh, where do you mock him? 24 feels too early, 55 feels too late, so you're kind of stuck.
Right. I'll have to go back. If his blocking is there on tape, then I mean, we know how he is, or at least I do, in the passing game and all.
Right. But even if his blocking is subpar, I mean, they signed Eric Hebron. I don't think they care about blocking that much for these high-profile
I guess, and Bill Belichick, go back and read some of that stuff about Bill Belichick and talking about tight ends and what he looks for in scouting them,
But just he said, who cares if they can run block, just if they catch the football and make impact plays. That's what you're drafting a guy at 24 for, potentially.
Right. But you would like some blocking.
Sure. And I think he can do that. I mean, I don't. He's better than Ebron. He's not a woeful run blocker, and there's obviously value in that, and that's still important in Pittsburgh. But I'm just saying. I mean, if you go out there and sign Eric Ebron and you can't block me, then I don't think you're going to talk about too much with blocking with Pat Freiermuth or any of these tight ends.
And make no mistake, everybody knows how we feel about Eric Ebron. Really, there is nothing on the depth chart right now.
Nope,
I mean,
nothing at all.
Apologies to Zach Gentry, but
and your boy Kevin Rader.
I mean, there's a little something there, but I mean, is that enough? I don't think it is.
No, it's not. I could see him as a number 3 though, special team.
I can see Rader. I can see Rader being the number 3 tight end to help out on special teams. I'm really starting to envision Freiermuth and Ebron and Rader being the 3 right now. And we'll obviously see what to me it feels right now. We'll see how much longer Jesse James stays unemployed, but and Jesse might be better served just wait right now anyway. Why rush if all you can get is a minimum benefit deal right now? Why rush out and sign it when that's probably going to still be there come June?
True.
So why rush out anyway? Why would the Steelers rush out to do that right now anyway, unless he would agree to such a minimum signing benefit deal here? So, if you got past the draft and you didn't get your tight end, then because look, it's hard to find a tight end in this draft, I think, that fits. If you don't get one in, say, the first or second round, you're probably going to wait. And then I've gone through quite a bit of them, and there's some decent ones. But if you're going to wait, I would envision you waiting to the fifth or sixth round. Then what are you going to get? at that point, So, and they're not going to have any chance at Pitts. We know that. We've known that for a while. At least we don't think so. Hate to speak in absolutes like that. But I guess what I'm getting at is I went into Thursday thinking more of, okay, if I was going to mock Freiermuth to the Steelers, I would have done so at 55 overall. I now enter Friday thinking, man, I don't know. Is there a possibility they could draft Freiermuth at 24th overall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think both 55 and 24 are reasonable things to say, and in some respects, 24 is more realistic just because I don't think he'll be there at 55. Again, not impossible. And last thing I'll say about this, and this is already the free space on the bingo card of Steelers Depot listeners, but the Steelers have not drafted a tight end in the top 4 rounds since 2007, and it's something that irritates the heck out of me, and I think it needs to change, and hopefully this will be the year, but we'll see.
And how many years have I talked about how nice would it be to do some 12 personnel stuff and be able to flex some of these guys out? And the thing about it, we already know what Ebron is and how he can be flexed out. I mean, when you look at Freiermuth, I mean, he's not Heath Miller either. In other words, you don't have to keep him tucked to the end of the line of scrimmage. You can also flex him out as well too, and cause a couple of mismatches with him out that way as well too. And if they really want to go and be able to run the football more, we know that they're probably going to have to do that out of more 12 personnel looks, whether it be a Freiermuth and a Joe Haig, type situation, or let's say a Freiermuth and an Eric Ebron type. You're gonna have to have a little bit more 12 personnel and actually be able to run out of it, which they haven't been able to do. So it's starting to make a lot more sense now.
It is. I mean, this is still going to be a base 11 personnel team for all the talent it has at receiver, especially by bringing Juju back. But yeah, 12 personnel as defenses continue to get smaller and they're going more speed focused and things like that. If you can counter that and go bigger, I mean, look at what the Patriots are doing with their tight ends. They signed Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. They're going to run a ton of 12 personnel this year and try to counter the idea of defenses that are smaller and faster and more focused on coverage. You're going to bring in big people to dominate those guys at the line of scrimmage. So in that sense, it can help you with run blocking in your run game overall. So we'll see. But Freiermuth certainly a name to strongly consider in your mock drafts.
Absolutely, especially after seeing all who showed up there.
Yep. Other pro day news, that was the big one. Only place Tomlin and Colbert have been so far, although I imagine they'll be somewhere today, probably at Michigan, considering all the talent. Who would be the third guy if they are at Michigan, assuming they bring one? Because there's a lot of defensive guys there at Michigan this class.
I would think maybe Keith Butler goes to this one. Have you spotted him yet?
Have not spotted Keith Butler. Maybe Dunbar?
Possibly. Because in that defensive lineman over there, something to look at. What's his last name?
Yeah, I know you're talking about. I forget the name, but I know you're talking
Quiddy
about. Yep. They got a couple guys. So, yeah, they got a lot of talent. This year, Michigan always does. So we'll see. But any other prospects?
And the offensive. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the offensive lineman over there. Maybe they bring Clem with them over there. What's his name? Mayfield.
Jalen Mayfield, yeah. He fits with this team. I mean,
he certainly does.
20 years old, only 20 years old.
You talked to him too, didn't you? And he said that he could play all 5 positions up and down that offensive line, and talked about his versatility and the Steelers. He's talked to the Steelers in the process as well too. So I mean, you want to talk about somebody that fits? He definitely fits.
Yeah, I don't know if he's played guard or center at Michigan, though. He was a left tackle very early in his career, then played right tackle. So I don't know if he's been training there or what. And then also Nico Collins had a Zoom call with wide receivers coach Ike Hilliard. So that's a potential, 4th-round guy, jump ball, above the rim type of player that they could look at maybe day 3.
I haven't gone deep into him, but when you do drill down, I look, the hair starts standing up on my arm a little bit there. Kind of that big guy that goes deep, right? And what did he tell? I think you were the one that even asked him. What is his favorite route?
Anything vertical. Which, he averaged 20 yards a catch. He opted out a lot this past year, but he averaged 20 yards a catch in 2019. So he's a big play threat.
Could he be 4th, 5th round material?
Yeah, I don't know exactly where he's slated. It's a really good receiver class. Fourth round sounds about right. I mean, I kind of view him as James Washington's future replacement.
Despite them, how much do you read into Ray McCloud re-signing for what he signed for?
It's not going to stop you drafting from somebody. He's there as backup slot and primarily in the return game, but maybe some sort of gadget piece for Matt Canada because they don't have that type of back on the roster right now. So it's not preventing you from drafting Nico Collins.
All it is a fail-safe with McCloud, right? In fact, I don't think there's anything even guaranteed with Ray right now, right? I mean, obviously his upside right now, more than anything, is his ability, his return ability.
Right. I mean, he's your starting kick and punt returner right now.
Right. I guess what I'm getting at there is even with the re-signing of Juju, because Juju still would be, is slated to go into, to be unrestricted again in 2022, as is James Washington. You would think that this is going to be yet another year that Kevin Colbert drafts a wide receiver, right?
I think there's a good chance of that. It's probably been pushed now to day 3 after Juju's re-signing. But, I mean, as you always point out, Colbert almost always drafts a receiver. So, I mean, I think the odds are still pretty decent.
The way the leaders in my clubhouse right now, I think, and we'll see what Nico does today. Would be Nico and who's the other kid that we talked about that they liked, the later round kid.
It was school.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. The 2018 tape was his best tape.
Rondell Moore.
No. It was the other twitchy kid. Oh.
I mean, Rondell Moore's not he's an early round pick. So.
Right. I'm trying to think of the other late round. One.
Oh,
the Auburn
Anthony
kid,
Schwartz.
Yeah. That's
Mel
it.
Kiper said he thinks he could be a first-round pick.
No,
a late first-round pick.
No, there's no way.
Usually Kiper gets that information. He's getting some inside information. So I don't know.
No way with Schwartz. No way. There's no.
Even if he's like day 2,
huh?
It doesn't sound like he's getting out of day 2.
I'm on record as saying, go ahead and mark me. And look, I'm one that gets on people to say, don't, this guy, you get in too much of that talk of he won't be there. He will be there because all it takes is one team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. But man, mark me down for him. Day 2 runs what, second and third round now or what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, second and third on day 2.
I bet he doesn't get drafted in the first 3 rounds.
I think he will. I'll take that bet.
All right. What
4.2640? I mean, I think that. What's the latest anyone's ever run a 4.26 and gotten drafted?
I guess that's true, but man, there's just not much there, other than that from what I've seen so far. But anyway, I could see one of those couple of kids right there. It's obviously going to be a twitchy, sparky wide receiver, you would think. And, man, I sure hope they get one that can get down the field. Nobody's talking about that BYU wide receiver that I like, man.
Maybe after today. He's got his workout today. Dax Line? How do you say his name?
Yeah. What is his it's been a while since I've turned his tape back on. Dax Milne, right?
Milne, I don't know how to say his last name, but he's working out today, so maybe he'll get to turn some heads.
Man, you make sure if you get on there, or if I get on there, one of us ask me if he's had any. Nobody's talking about him, and he's kind of that guy that can move all over and got down the field quite a bit as well too. He's one of the first ones that I turned the tape on, or actually paid a lot of attention to wide receiver wise because I was watching the quarterback. Over there, I was like, who the heck is this kid? And there's a little bit to him. He really would fit. I think in the Steelers' offense there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You've been talking about that kid since basically the start of the draft process,
right? But I've got away from him too because you had to research other players and all, and just with today being the BYU media day, he's fresh on my mind to talk about. Go try to watch him this weekend, Alex.
Okay, all right, I will. All right, other pro day stuff, nothing too notable. Some of these guys are hiding from me a little bit. The one we did spot, though, and I kind of circled back to from, I think this was Tuesday or Wednesday was at Purdue. Initially, I thought they didn't send anybody to Purdue, but I ended up finding inside linebackers coach Jerry Olsavsky was there and actually worked out linebacker Derek Barnes through drills. And Barnes had a really impressive workout, and I think that's someone that really should be considered for Pittsburgh, maybe even early as the third round, but probably the fourth round.
Amazing how because I know that I watched that same video just kind of poking around and how you were able to pick. I mean, not even if you blink, you miss them. I mean, the camera goes. The camera goes by Jerry so quick there, and congrats to you for catching one. So yeah, I think that's in the picture there. And then they can run, but they can't hide. You found who the third person at the Alabama Pro Day was as well too.
Yeah, do we mention that? I guess we wouldn't have done that on Wednesday's show. Yeah, Matt Canada was the third musketeer at Alabama's Pro Day along with Tomlin and Colbert, which makes sense considering all the offensive talent they have there. But Canada, just like at Clemson, third man at Bama.
They're going to start wearing disguises.
Well, they were in the mask. I guess the mask didn't do it for them.
Who else have you picked out recently?
I mean, no one too exciting unless you really get all
you get
hot and
excited
bothered about.
I do.
I'll make a Parks and Rec reference here that you probably won't understand. I get excited about Steelers scouts the way that Leslie Knope gets excited about local government officials, which is a reference I assume you will understand.
Right over my head.
Yeah, that's all right. It feels good to be on the other side of that one for a change.
All right.
Last couple of days, Dan Colbert was at Michigan State. Michigan State, not a lot of good prospects this year. Shakir Brown, Naquan Jones, a couple of guys there to look at. Rick Rapriche has always kind of done the Southern scouting circuit. He was at Mississippi State and Ole Miss yesterday. I couldn't tell at USC. This makes it that either it was Kelvin Fisher or Brandon Hunt. And if it was Brandon Hunt there, that's a lot more notable than Kelvin Fisher being there. Yeah, nothing else too exciting. Mark Gorsuch at Tennessee. But in terms of coaches and stuff, outside of scouts, haven't really found anybody.
All right,
Dave. Art Rooney was doing a Q&A session on Steelers Nation Unite yesterday. A lot of good fan questions. And where do you want to start with what he had to say?
First and foremost, I think he kind of it's not shocking, but I think he kind of officially let the cat out of the bag there, you know.
Worst kept secret in the NFL.
Yeah, worst kept secret in the NFL is that there's going to be a 16-game season. And 17-game season, sorry. Yeah, somebody kept it from me, didn't they? 17-game season, and, I mean, it's a done deal the way the context of what he had to say. So 17-game season and one less preseason game, it sounds like, is on the books for 2021, and then see how that goes. So once again, not a surprise, but it sounds like it's pretty much a done deal, formality at this point. And if indeed that happens, most of the signs are really pretty much, I think that the path has been laid that the Steelers would play the Seattle Seahawks as that extra game and then host Seattle at Heinz Field.
Right, yeah, Rooney's comments here, quote, obviously this year will be the first year for it, referring to a 17-game season, so we'll get a chance to see how it goes. I think we'll reduce the preseason by one game. That'll be officially voted on by the owners at league meetings in a couple of weeks, and so it's just a mere formality at this point.
Right, and he obviously is optimistic about not only getting fans back at Heinz Field in 2021, but full capacity as well too. So, obviously hopes everybody's out there, getting the vaccination and hoping, things will continue going on the way that they're going right now. But there's no reason not to be optimistic, I guess, right now. But, barring anything, setback or anything with the pandemic or anything, you would think we would be at least half capacity. But he sure wasn't afraid to throw out their full capacity, right? So on pace for that, and really kind of a shoot off from that. the plan is to get back out at Latrobe, out at St. Vincent College for training camp this year. And I know that makes you very, very excited. Now, he did kind of say, I don't know, being as how that's a little bit closer, closer time frame related that, might have to do something with the crowd numbers. But I'll have you there at like 4 a.m. in the morning if I have to make sure you get in there. But things are pointing up. I think as far as optimism with the Steelers returning back to St. Vincent College in Latrobe this year.
I will get a big lollipop and a little spinny hat and say, you have to let me in. I'm a small child. I just want to see my favorite players play, and they will have to let me in. If
you shaved, you could probably do that.
That's depressing. It's probably true, though. But yeah, hopefully the optimism is the second time in the last month Rooney's expressed optimism about holding training camp at Latrobe. I'm still going to be a little cautious about that because I don't know how things are going to go, what the league's going to mandate. That's kind of my biggest concern right now. The league's going to step in and say, no, you have to do X, Y, or Z. But we'll see. And, things are decent right now pandemic-wise, and hopefully they get a lot better in the next couple of months.
Absolutely. He talked, some other things about Ben Roethlisberger and how bringing Ben Roethlisberger back was always our goal. Talked about Juju and what specifically did he say about Juju? Just the fact that
wanted to come back.
Yeah, he really wanted to come back, and that helped out a lot in getting that done, which I think is quite obvious when you look at what Juju signed for and the way that they structured his contract and all.
And again, Rooney saying that the Pittsburgh Steelers cannot be dead last in rushing, which is, again, that mandate to improve and fix the run game.
And then you hear that, you think, man, they got to draft a running back at some point early, right?
Top 2 rounds is where I'm at right now.
And, which one of the three would most likely, if it was one of the three, would fall down into the second round there?
It's a good question. I'm not really sure. I don't think it'll be Najee Harris, but maybe I've just been so hyper-focused on that because he's always been viewed as the guy, and then things change, and I have to adapt to it. I guess Javonte Williams, I hope I'll get to talk to Javonte Williams today and see if he's had any contact with Pittsburgh. Their pro day is going to be on Monday, so we'll see if Pittsburgh ends up there. But that's a good question. I don't really know, and I don't really have a strong feeling that any of those guys will be there at 55, but who knows?
And this means absolutely nothing. Once again, Gil Brandt has Najee ranked 26th overall. He has Travis Etienne ranked 28th overall, and he has Javonte Williams ranked 31st overall.
Yeah, they're very clustered together. There is not a lot of light and gap between the evaluation. There are different styles of backs, obviously, but the overall grades are pretty similar.
Who would you think is who would you think he has ranked after those three?
That's a good question.
The next running back.
You got Gainwell. You got maybe a Trey Sermon. Who? Just tell me.
I'm trying to find.
Oh, you don't know the answer to it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it on the list right now here, real quick. I apologize for that. I thought I had it here. Let's see. It said Javonte at 31 overall, and I think you got to go a little ways before you find the next one here. It looks like, does he even have one in? He's got Jalen Mayfield ranked 48th overall. We just talked about Mayfield a little bit there. Where is one here?
There's going to be a drop-off. I mean, there's a clear tier 1 of those 3 names, and then you have a defined drop-off.
I'm not, I'm not seeing, he's got to have one on here, another one on here. I guess, let's see.
Maybe he doesn't.
Maybe he doesn't. All right. Well, I thought I saw another one on here, but I guess I didn't.
So yeah, I think
No, he doesn't. He that's it. He's just got those 3 in the top 100, and that's it. I thought I saw another one on there, but my eyes are bad. So.
Yeah, that's all right. So we'll see. But again, just more comments from Rooney. This is nothing new Rooney's saying here, but everyone knows this run game has to get fixed, and they've done a little to address it, I suppose, with Zach Banner re-signing. Assume he'll be a starter, and Joe Haig, I guess. But there's still a lot of work to do with the run game.
Absolutely, and they will address it in some form or fashion. So we'll see.
They will. And then he also mentioned, of course, getting a long-term deal with T.J. Watt done, and that should happen. It'll be a mega contract, and should happen this summer.
Yeah, and the only thing now is what will the numbers look like? there's no, I know people are saying, well, are trying to read into these quotes and say, well, this means that that maybe there's a chance, and the way Rooney kind of framed this quote, saying, well, he is, final year and all like that, that maybe they would go franchise tag next year. You cannot expect TJ Watt play for 10. I know people are saying, what? $10 million is a lot of money. I don't care. There's no way you can expect TJ Watt to play for $10 million in 2021. Am I right?
Right. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I know Rooney said try, but that's just, owners speak and being careful with your words and all that. It's going to happen.
Right. And it's more than likely going to happen real close to the start, or once the team gets into training camp. That's usually when that kind of stuff happens. And from where I sit right now, from where this team looks like from a cap perspective, I mean, you could probably get something done that would free up maybe $1 million or $2 million salary cap wise with him. But I won't be shocked if by the time the ink dries on the TJ Watt deal that his cap number stays right about near the same at right around $10 million. At a minimum, I think his cap number comes in around maybe $2 million less than what it's scheduled right now. But don't be surprised because of how they're going to have to structure, unless they get creative, mind you, which they can. But there's been the only creativity they've had this offseason so far has been this, the voidable year stuff. So
right.
I know we had this talk the other day. Anything else to add about Watt or anything? I mean,
no,
they're going to get it done.
Yeah, going to happen.
Oh, what? Anything else Rooney have to say that was? There were some better. I'm proud of Steelers fans. There were a lot better questions in that Q&A yesterday.
Yeah, there were some pretty solid ones. Rooney impressed with Ben. Had a very all right. Let me ask you this question. Rooney was asked about Ben's performance. He says, "quote I thought Ben had a very good year last year for someone who was coming off arm surgery." Is that passive aggressive and all that? Because it sounds super passive aggressive.
Yeah, I suppose you could frame it that way.
I don't know. Just sounds like, he had a good year for a guy that his
arm almost fallen off. Yeah. Well, the Ford Mustang was running great today until we blew an engine. Yeah, we were running right at the top of the pack. We probably could have won the thing if we hadn't blown an engine. Yeah.
Shout out to the team, Coca-Cola, and our fellow sponsors here. We're not sponsored by Coca-Cola. Anyway, where to now, Dave?
Alejandro Villanueva and James Conner both remain unsigned right now.
Conner almost became a Jet.
I don't know if it's almost. There's one reporter saying that they had interest in him or were talking to him, I guess, whatever that means. So, but both those guys remain. Here's my thoughts on Conner at this point. If you can't get a 1 year, $3 million deal, or some semblance, that'll pay you $3 million or more, why sign right now? Wouldn't because of the running back position, it being so fungible, and we saw middle of last year, who was Freeman? Remember that Devontae Freeman getting signed after Saquon went down, and he got more than the minimum that way. If I'm James Conner right now, I just work on keeping myself in shape, and if all that's out there is like a 1 year, $2 million deal, I just wait right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, the market's obviously cool. The running back market in general has been really poor. I don't think teams really want to sign a running back now until after the draft, and they kind of see if they draft somebody who's younger and cheaper and longer term contracts, and then if they don't do that, then maybe they'll go out there and sign a James Conner. But I think he might be waiting until after the draft.
I do too. I think that as well too. And he might wait even long. Once again, what's the hurry? I mean, if all you can get some minimum or close to it, and that's all that's going to be on the table for a while.
What did they give? What back did they sign instead of James Conner? The Jets did.
Tevin Coleman, wasn't it?
Coleman. What did they give Coleman?
I don't know if we've seen the numbers
on that. I'd just be curious to know what the market is for a Coleman Conner level of back right now.
Let me look and see if there's any numbers on that. I don't think I think I looked yesterday, and I don't think there was.
I'm sure it wasn't much. But I just to get an idea of where that market is at right now, because we just have not had a lot of running backs signed. Matt Breida signed with the Bills, but I think that was for super cheap. Do we have any?
Let's see. 1 year. It looks like a 1 year, $1.1 million contract. He received $400,000 in guarantees, another $800,000 in incentives that are available there. So
there's a light market for a guy like James Conner if he couldn't get that deal.
Right.
So yeah, I hear you.
They probably offered him that sort of deal. Yeah, there's no reason for James Conner to rush out there right now. And here's the other thing too, you got to think about if your teams too. It's kind of your balance sheet, the backside of your compensatory gain and loss, right? I mean, you don't want if you've got a team, if you're a team and you're hoping to sign a running back and you've got some compensatory value on the board right now, why are you going to go ruin that with a $3 million 1 year running back that you might cast aside?
True, but at this point, he's not getting $3 million.
No, but I mean, I haven't looked at the balance sheets that Nick Corte has up yet. But I mean, I don't know if we're still in the area where something over the minimum will impact it, though.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'll put it this way: I don't think they're getting a comp pick. The Steelers are for James Conner next draft. It doesn't sound like it.
It sure doesn't sound like it, does it? Because once once you get out of what is it, like 2 weeks after the draft is when the cutoff is for the
June 1st.
For compensatory signings. I think it's way earlier than June 1st. Yeah.
I get the date wrong on that. Anyway, but yeah, you're right.
So yeah, I think a lot of these guys are going to remain unsigned for quite a while unless they sign for the minimum salary type stuff. Now, where's Alejandro Villanueva in all this at this point? You and I would sign him. At least I think I would. I'd sign him back for 1 year, $9 million on a 4 year. If you got this many voidable things out there, and if you think you can get, I know people are throwing their podcast machines right now, but if you could get Alejandro Villanueva back right now for 1 year at $9 million, and move the cap needle, say about $1.8 million after displacement, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, and
other than pushing that potential, obviously having the extra kind of dead money, but I mean,
at this point, you're swimming in it. I mean, you had no problem doing it with all these guys, so shouldn't stop you for Villanueva. Yeah, I don't know what his market's going to be.
Would you, if you did re-sign Villanueva, does that put tackle off 1 more year, or no?
I mean, not really, because Okorafor is in the last year of his deal. Villanueva will be on a 1 year deal, voidable contract, and so they're still going to be needing to address that position.
And Haig's not going to be. Haig's not going to be in Pittsburgh for 2022 season.
So I don't think it would stop me. I think they'd be in the same camp they are now. At least where I think they're going to be is a day 3 upside pick.
Okay.
So I don't know.
If they spent an early draft pick, I just want to throw this out there, okay? If they drafted an early tackle, first 3 rounds, okay, first 3 or 4 rounds, obviously that kid's going to probably make the roster. And if you had re-signed Alejandro Villanueva, do you go to Chuks Okorafor and say, look, because he qualified for that proven performance escalator, so and that's what's got his salary so high. Do you go to him and say, and I know what he would say. He said he'd probably say cut me. But do you look at him being possibly expendable, Okorafor?
I don't know. That seems like there's a whole lot going on there. I think there's a legal term called ripeness, and that doesn't feel like it's so many steps ahead that I will cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, keep it in the back of your head because, I mean, he played okay last year, but I mean, if Banner beat him out, I mean, Banner would have been the starting right tackle had he stayed healthy, right? And of course, if you bring back Villanueva, and if you got Haig, and obviously you would carry Okorafor through camp, but at that point, I guess what I'm getting at is I don't think Okorafor would be a lot for the 53 if you had all those ifs and buts happen there.
Yeah, I mean, heck, if Steven Nelson, they cut him, then anything, I guess, wouldn't shock me at this point because I never saw that Steven Nelson cut coming.
I mean, because that's $2 million in cap space. And then what is it? What is his number exactly? A core for it is 2.183. So subtract 660,000 from that. I mean, it would almost really pay for Villanueva.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. It's just one of those things I'd like to throw out there.
Did I tell you my plan? I'm switching gears here a little bit, but I tell you my plan about how this team could have kept Steven Nelson and still made it work financially cap-wise?
Go ahead.
Did I tell you that? Well, my plan was you don't sign Joe Haeg, you don't sign Chris Wormley, and you do a voidable year extension to the max with Joe Hayden. Isn't that a better idea than cutting Steven Nelson?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah,
it saves you about the same amount of money. And yes, I know you got to worry about defensive line depth and offensive tackle, who's your swing guy, but those are much smaller problems than let's cut, arguably our best corner or our second best corner.
Well, once again, look, I think they made a mistake on. I think they could have brought Haeg in on a benefit contract. I mean, and I know you say, well, tackles, blah, blah, blah. But, okay, if he didn't want it, you're not signing him to play tackle anyway unless you're basically signing him to be a sixth offensive lineman. All right?
Yeah, just draft one. This is like a great tackle class. If you want to tackle that bad, just go draft one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, exactly. Unless he's willing to sign for a benefit contract. Mm-hmm. And once again, I know we're splitting hairs here, but the hairs needed to be split with the salary cap this year. So I think one of the worst moves Kevin Colbert has made so far in free agency is signing Haeg to more than the minimum. To be honest with you. Huh?
Well, go now. Finish your thought.
And the second one would be paying Wormley as much as you paid him.
Right. Yeah.
Look, I wanted Wormley back. I mean, I did just from the sheer fact that I provide you some experience depth. I think he owes you some snaps because you definitely overpaid him last year. You have yada fifth round pick involved. You got him on the you paid him $2.1 million. Yeah, I wanted him back because I think but I also wanted him back on a minimum contract as well too. And I'm not so sure you probably couldn't have had that had you held on long enough there. But
yeah,
you did.
In my plan, you're trading Joe Haeg and Chris Wormley for Steven Nelson. I mean, who's saying no to that? I mean, Nelson obviously the better player, the more valuable player, and then you do the voidable year extension with Hayden. And yes, Hayden has to want to do that voidable year extension, but Ebron did it. And if you tell Hayden, hey, this is the way we can keep Steven Nelson and keep this defense and hopefully win because you have one career playoff win in your NFL career, so do this extension for us, and that'll help us win. I mean, he's not going to say no to that.
I mean, you with Chris Wormley and his number, you're roughly, let's see, 1.6 is his number, so subtract, damn near $1 million extra in salary cap space that you spent on that, and had you got him on a benefit deal, his cap number would have been 850. Well, it'd been a little bit higher because you probably would have had to give him the 137,500 signing bonus on there. So let's just say you would have got him at 987,500 as a cap number on Wormley. That's $700,000 difference in cap space that you would have saved there. And then on Haeg, really almost the same thing right there with him because his cap number is 1.5 this year. So, I mean, you're talking about $1.5 million between the two in cap space that you could have saved and maybe still had the players, to show.
But even if you didn't, even if you lost both of those guys, if it's a mission to keep Steven Nelson, that's a fine trade-off for me.
Right.
Now, maybe it wasn't. Maybe the match just didn't work out. I mean, they're obviously, I'm sure they're considering all options, but I don't know. I just feel like a better plan. And the note to Colbert is stop signing former Tampa Bay Buccaneer offensive linemen Sean Mahan and Joe Haeg. It's not working well, maybe.
And look, I mean, I think Haeg's tape's okay as an extra lineman, but I mean,
for the money though, it's a little
right for the money. The last thing any of us should want to see right now is Haeg have to play tackle. And we damn sure don't want to see him play guard. I don't think, What has been Kevin Colbert's best move so far this offseason?
I mean, re-signing Juju.
I think so.
But what else would it even be?
Nothing else. Nothing else. Kind of Cameron
Nice,
Sutton
nice.
at his number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of felt like that was going to happen. Him probably saying nice goodbyes to Bud Dupree and Mike Hilton. That's probably a nice gesture. Something he did. There's not a lot to choose from.
No, there's not.
So, anyway, last thing I want to talk about before we get into reader emails is a good article by Matthew Marksy, and we had a discussion last night about are the Steelers going to add another slot corner potentially, and some names to make sense. And I think we kind of settled on two names that make the most amount of sense in former Bengals corner Darqueze Dennard and Mackenzie Alexander as potential slot guys who the Steelers both had a fair amount of interest in coming out of the draft.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the list. I know some other people have said, well, what about Brian Poole? Yeah, I suppose that could be maybe an option as well too. Poole's probably going to demand a little bit more money. Heck, the other two might as well too. And really, the caveat to all this to Mackenzie Alexander and Dennard would be the fact that had to be cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you look at their cornerback depth chart. And you and I talked about this, I think, the other day. On the podcast here, especially talking about what kind of quarterback or cornerback would they most likely kind of draft if they do draft one. And you look at their roster top to bottom and who under contract right now can play in the slot.
Yeah, it's Cam Sutton and, as you mentioned, Trevor Williams.
Right, and Trevor Williams, I think even though he has played in the slot before, to me, he's best suited to play outside. And here's the other thing, and I think maybe I opened your eyes and Matthew's eyes last night, or just made you think about it. Who's been the winner on that cornerback depth chart besides James Pierre this offseason?
I assume you're Trevor Williams.
Yeah, I think Williams has become maybe that kind of guy that if he can beat out Justin Lane, if he can show enough on special teams, I think there's an outside shot that Williams might steal a 53-man roster spot. Now, obviously, you got the draft to go and all like that. But as far as, can you really see this team going in? We talked just the other day about outside line. One thing we didn't cover is Cassius Marsh. Did we cover Cassius Marsh?
I don't think we did.
Not that it's a big stop the podcast.
Reset, new podcast. Yeah, signed to a 1-year contract that was announced with the Hague and Killebrew signings.
Right, and I think I pretty much have predicted that was probably going to happen there, but it's not. It had to happen just because you had to have the experienced body in there. Now, am I pulling for Cassius Marsh to be number 3 on the outside linebacker depth chart? Absolutely not. The only upside Cassius Marsh has is special teams aspect, and hopefully them re-signing him was for it better not be for more than minimum, or else he becomes the new worst move Kevin Colbert has made this offseason. If you got him back on a minimum and can cut him, fine, because that had to be done in my opinion. Once again, I think Marsh is fine as a special teamer. I just don't want him out. I don't want to see him have to play many, if any, spots at outside linebacker. But I guess, long story short, going back here is saying, just the other day I had a terrible take about the outside linebacker depth and how I expected them to add 1 or maybe 2 before the draft because of that, because of the shape of the outside linebacker depth chart. Aren't we facing that same thing right now with the slot cornerback depth chart?
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think with Trevor Williams, the best place to start is to explain who Trevor Williams is, because I don't know if 75% of the fans know that he was signed to the roster late last season, veteran corner, played with the Chargers, and signed a futures contract after the season. So he's played in the NFL a decent amount. Was able to be on the practice squad with expanded rules last year. So that is just who Trevor Williams is in the first place.
Yeah, maybe I assumed too much there, but he was a kind of a carryover from late last season after he was brought in after Hayden went to COVID, right?
Was it? I couldn't remember. It was late in the year. I couldn't remember the reason why he came in, but he came in late in the season.
And I hate to describe players' tape as an upside being not bad, but that's basically where you are. He does, if not for his knee injury a couple years ago, makes you kind of wonder what what would have happened to Williams there. But going back after him being signed late last season, I watched a little bit of his tape, and once again, it's not bad. And I think he's got a little bit of upside now. He has played previously, like I said, a little bit in the slot, not much. I still think he's best suited to play outside there. So I don't right now I don't consider him a serious candidate to be a depth slot guy right now. I think he is one of those guys that, he can play slot if you need him to, kind of guy. So that brings us back to the point of, man, they probably need to seriously consider adding a slot guy with some experience here prior to the draft.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it still could go either way, but I think a slot guy is more likely because Sutton's, I guess, envisioned to play on the outside in some respect, and you have Pierre and you have even Justin Lane still there, and really there's nothing else at slot behind Cam Sutton, so I think a slot guy is more likely. Who that is a little harder to gauge. I've talked about Elijah Molden from Washington. I think it would be a great fit for Pittsburgh at number 55, but we'll see.
Of those two, Mackenzie Alexander and Denard, it's not much of a choice. But to me, Alexander would be the 1A, and then Denard be the 1B.
Isn't he younger too?
Yeah, I think so.
Alexander, by a year or two. So yeah, I haven't really watched either lately, but Mackenzie Alexander's 27. I'll probably take him as well.
Yeah, and once again, it would have to be cheap, and I'll have to go back and look and see which one has more value. I believe Alexander was the one that might have the more, the better tackler of the two.
Yeah, I just remember Denard getting trucked by Le'Veon Bell twice.
Right. So the plausibility factor with either one of those two is there, especially with this. Kevin Colbert likes that bust, that near bust pedigree.
Because you're cheap.
and cheap, yeah.
Well, it makes you cheap, yeah. Former near bust makes you pretty economical. So we'll see. That was a smart article though by Matthew, and some good names to mention.
Right. So we'll see what happens here. Once again, I would think that they would address the slot position with a minimum or near minimum signing before the draft.
Yeah. We shall find out. All right, Dave. I think we've vamped enough. Let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right. Let me get to the email machine. Just getting some word on the BYU media availability today. Looks like one of us will be attending that today.
Nice. It does not seem like any head honchos are at BYU. Albert Breer was tweeting out the list of the big names who are there. No Steelers. Not a surprise. I mean, I'm sure somebody from Pittsburgh will be there, but not Tomlin, Colbert. Not hearing anything on Michigan Pro Days yet, though.
Not yet, but I still expect him to be one or both of them to be there. All right, this one from Ian writes in, Dear Dave and Alex _Kozora. That should be your first tattoo, underscore. I'm going to get you in
just an underscore?
No, just the underscore symbol with the words underscore.
I'm gonna pass on that one. I don't have any tattoos. I'm pro tattoo. If you want to get a tattoo, it's fine. I just never really felt like it's anything I really like enough to permanently ink on my body.
All right, well, you're not part of the cool kids then.
I've never been part of the cool kids.
Let's see. Is it possible to get a 1-year ad-free deal with Steelers Depot, but with 4 voidable years? That's good. He's got another question in here. It's even a better one. Do you see Mike Tomlin ever coaching anywhere besides Pittsburgh?
Oh, that is a good question.
Thanks as always for all the non-fungible minutia.
I mean, I think he would love to stay in Pittsburgh for his whole career, but if the Steelers ever fired him for some reason, yeah, I mean, he loves football. He's always talked about it. He doesn't have hobbies. He just loves ball. And if he got the opportunity to coach somewhere else, then I think he would jump on it. So, yeah, I think that's possible.
I could see it happening. I definitely see it as being something that would be plausible, especially at his age right now. He's still a young man, and whether it be college or pro or what have you, I could definitely see something like that happening. And I mean, we'll see. But I guess to answer the question, yeah, I could see it potentially happening. Let's see, what else do we have here? Non-COVID salary cap from Devin Beerley, right? Said, hey guys, thanks for all the work you do. If not, this is a good one here. Unfortunately, this opens up to send me down some rabbit holes here. If not for COVID, let's say the salary cap came in at $200 million, even though I'm sure it would have been more than that. Of their own free agents, who do you think the Steelers could have all kept if not for the low salary cap in 2021?
That's a good question. I mean, do you keep a Mike Hilton? Do you keep a Steven Nelson? Probably do that. Yeah, I mean, I still think you probably lose guys like, Dupree probably still walks, and you probably still let Villanueva and Connor go, at least test. But hopefully you can bring back a Mike Hilton and keep a Steven Nelson or something.
Here's the problem. My head went down the rabbit hole here, and the fact is if the salary cap would have came in higher, let's say 200 or 200, even 200. Would you have even done what you did with Ben Roethlisberger's contract for starters?
That's a good point. Yeah, you're kind of really reverse engineering this whole thing.
Right.
You probably still do something with him. I don't know if you do it the same way, and you probably wouldn't do the voidable years with the other guys. Yeah, that's a good point.
So the cap space that you created, would you have created it? Mm-hmm. The other, and
you just blew my mind there, Dave.
I know. Well, unfortunately, that's the way I go. I always try to reverse engineer things, and as soon as I read this question, I thought, oh man, yeah, that's where I'm going with this, because, mate, you are you going to purposely kind of kick those kind of would you have restructured Cam Hayward's contract? That's another question to ask there. Juju, what would Juju's market value had been? What would, could you have used maybe the franchise? I guess what I'm getting at, Devin, and I know it's not the answer you want to hear here, is it's really kind of an impossible question, I think, to answer, because not knowing what they would have done with some of these other guys. Now, I'll give you this little bit, though, Devin. I think every opportunity may have been made to keep Mike Hilton. Maybe that's one guy that you retain. I still don't think that you retain Matt Filer. I still don't think you retain really Bud Dupree at that number. But I think maybe you have a chance at retaining a Mike Hilton, and definitely a Cameron Sutton on top of it there. But not knowing what way they would have gone with the restructures and some of these other things makes it kind of an impossible question to answer, I think.
Right. I still don't think even under any circumstance you would have been able to keep both Sutton and Hilton unless you were cutting a Hayden or a Nelson, because why would, say, Sutton sign when he would just be the dime backer again and not play a whole lot, So I think it was always kind of a one or the other unless you knew that you were cutting Steven Nelson. Granted, they did, but you get my point.
Right. I think you maintain – I think you keep Steven Nelson through all this too.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, voidable years from Pastor Joe Green. David Alex, can you please review potential pluses and or minuses of signing a voidable years contract? I understand the short-term benefit this year, pushing out money to lower this year's cap impact. However, what are the implications for re-signing one of these players to an extension in 2022? Is that still an option? If so, what limitations would there be? The biggest thing, Pastor Joe, is the fact that you're automatically setting yourself up for dead money in 2022. With Ben, with Juju, who else have they done it with?
Sutton.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not going to cut him. I mean, but at least with those two, you've got that dead money out there that once their contract's void becomes dead, right? I mean, if your future year, and we've got somebody keeps hammering us on Twitter about this, saying, "Are you sure about what's going to happen with the dead money?" Well, if you have a void, if future years void 5 days after the Super Bowl, and they automatically void, if that's the language, then the prorated money has no place to stay, right? So it has to escalate forward.
Yeah, no, you're right. So the money's going to accrue. There's really no getting around that.
All right. So the downside of that is you're setting up for a giant dead money charge on the players that you did with. Now, the other aspect that Alex and I have kind of reverse engineered just through looking at the CBA and looking at recent past instances here, as far as re-signing these players, I still think, we still believe that if they really want to, they have the option to franchise tag either Ben Roethlisberger or Juju, whichever one they choose, right? Because both those guys technically should still be on pace to become unrestricted free agents in March of 2022, which means that both should be taggable if you want to tag them, and both you should be able to, if you so choose, to work out a long-term deal with either one of those players prior to them becoming unrestricted free agents. Now, the other question this guy on Twitter keeps asking us is what happens, let's say you do get either Ben or let's say you get Juju re-signed prior to the start of the 2022 new league year. Does that impact where his dead money amounts go? And my answer to that would be no, because once the contract voids, that outstanding prorated money has to come rushing forward. It's not like it goes, let me go back. Now, if you were able to work out something with Juju prior to the to the future years voiding, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you before 5 days after the Super Bowl is over with, if you're able to get to some sort of an agreement where you rip up the idea of the voidable years or his future years voiding, if you get that clause out of there, then those extra 4 years remain intact as long as you attach another contract to it, right? That would be that would be my take on it.
Yeah. I mean, I trust you. I defer to you, but yeah, I think you're right.
But I don't think we've ever seen that sort of animal kind of happen before, where a guy has had the voidable year aspect of it, and then an extension reached before the voidable year's void.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened before.
I'll have to research that. But back to the Pastor Joe, the main takeaway is that the future dead money that you put out there is the biggest negative. And as far as a positive there, I think you hit on that. It's just you're able to have the player have a lower cap charge this year.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's a good answer. It's a wild year, but teams are doing what they have to do.
Eric Coakley writes in, I'm noticing a higher than normal 1 year contracts around the league. Did I read this the other day? Do you forecast a large free agency pool next year? Do you think a lot of college juniors decided to not enter the draft due to missing a year to put play on tape? I predict a large draft and free agency pool next season. I hope the Steelers can capitalize, and I worry Colbert will be on his way out in a critical time. I don't think we did. I don't think we read this.
No, we didn't get to that. It's a good question. It feels like more 1 year contracts, but I'm sure somebody can quantify that and actually put the numbers to it, because a lot of guys still sign 1 year deals after the first couple waves of free agency because it's just what teams are handing out. They're 1 year prove it deals, and you try to cash in the market no matter what it's going to be. So maybe a tick up this year for sure. And then, yeah, I'm sure a lot of guys stayed in school, even fifth year seniors or seniors went back to school. Some did for more play time. So, yeah, I'm sure that was definitely a factor.
I think we're slowly starting to see those underclassmen kind of numbers kind of decline a little bit anyway, because I think they're learning their lesson, that you come out. If you're not first, second round kid, you're probably going to end up undrafted, and then you probably should have stayed in the school and, maybe try to increase your get yourself an education, and B, potentially raise your draft stock there. So, I know initially those numbers were high, but I think over the years, I think some of those, I think the underclassmen are starting to learn that unless you're kind of slam dunk first or second round, it probably pays to stay in school.
How many underclassmen came out this year? Do we know the number?
Yeah, I've got
90 something.
Yeah, it's around 9. I think it's around that again, wasn't it? Did I put that up on the site?
You did. Yeah, you did. I just don't remember the actual number, but I feel like the number was about the same as any other year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's the way it felt to me. Dante writes in about Aldon Smith. The Cowboys have elected not to re-sign Aldon Smith. Could he possibly be a target for the Steelers? After a long road back from a multi-year suspension, he still showed flashes, blah, 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 up to $4 million based incentive. So I'm not entirely sure if the numbers would work for somebody to be, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, however, having him as the team's number 3 edge rusher would alleviate concerns about depth, keep Watt, Highsmith fresher throughout games over the course of the season. Man, yeah, to me, very talented guy, especially when he was in his prime. But, once again, unless you're going to get that guy for the minimum, is that worth taking on a potential, quote unquote, potential headache with him? I say probably not.
Probably not.
Getting for a minimum.
There just aren't a lot of pass rushers out there to talk about, so the list is getting pretty thin.
It really is. I mean, Vic Beasley's still unsigned, isn't he? But, I mean, once again, how cheap is he willing to sign? Some of these guys, sure, it looked nice, but do they have any special teams ability? And B, how cheap can you get them?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's not.
Yeah.
I mean that's why you end up with a Cassius Marsh there. Now, is there potential still add one of these lower level guys out there? Yeah, I think there's a chance, but it's not going to be anybody that I think anybody's holding a parade over here. Where's Avery Williamson at right now? How's the price tag on that looking?
Should be cheap. I've heard nothing about his market. And I doubt there's obviously not a big demand for one. So, yeah, I mean, but he's not helping your edge situation.
No. But he, talking about guys that you might, I think there's now 10 of the Steelers unrestricted free agents that are unsigned. Sean Davis, there's a report this morning that he's visiting the Bills, and that's not a loss there. Jordan Dangerfield, can you get Jordan Dangerfield? Do you want Jordan Dangerfield back? I don't see why you wouldn't on a benefit deal.
Yeah, the big negative for those guys is age. I mean, he's in his 30s. Villanueva's in his 30s. I think that's why they signed a guy like Colbert. All these guys they signed were in their mid-20s, and so age does play a factor in for agency and your projection. So it wouldn't stop me from signing Dangerfield to a one-year deal, but I wonder if you just feel like that group's getting too old.
I mean, that guy, you talking to me 1 year of the concussed birth certificate makes a difference as far as his special teams play?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, but I guess you got to draw a line somewhere. I don't know.
I mean, at least if anything, bring him in on him. You can cut him later if you need to. Mm-hmm. I mean, get him re-signed. Anybody else on that list unsigned right now that you think could potentially be brought back on a benefit deal?
I mean, Jordan Berry, right?
Yeah. Do they even have a punter on the roster right now?
Corliss Waitman.
Yeah, Corliss Waitman. They're gonna draft that Georgia Tech punter. I'm telling you right now.
They don't have. I mean,
6th or 7th round, they're gonna draft him.
Presley Harvin, big boy. Maybe.
They're gonna draft him. I'm telling you. Or a punter. Period. Let's see. What else do we've got? Any more? Mapletron from Brad. Now that's a Canadian and a Pittsburgh Steeler, eh? The Canadians like to fight. Don't they?
I mean, they play hockey, and so yeah, probably.
Let's see. I think we've hit all of them, Alex. I think we're kind of caught up on here as far as questions goes. So I think we're an hour into this now. Probably a perfect time to give the people a break first. You got a terrible take coming today. I haven't even looked at it. What? Give us a tease on the terrible take.
I do. It's about the need to find a number 4 quarterback to push Dwayne Haskins. Haskins should not feel comfortable this summer.
Josh Dobbs.
That's in my terrible take. He makes an appearance.
Oh, okay.
Why not bring back Josh Dobbs? Why would you not bring? Unless he just didn't want to come here and didn't feel like he had a chance.
All right. Now, what do I win for getting that easy?
No one's going to listen to my take now.
There we go. Scrub this from the tape here. All right. When are we going to be back? Well, I know we're going to be back Monday night for the YouTube live stream at a minimum. We're going to play it by ear the rest of the weekend and see if the Steelers give us anything to talk about, right?
Yep, either be back for the podcast on Monday or Tuesday.
All right. In the meantime, you got anything? You're going to go see the accountant today, aren't you? You get to do what I did earlier this week and get signed off on all that fun stuff there. Anything else fun you got? We're going to be in some Zoom calls today, so check Steelers Depot out for that, about some pro days, and we're waiting to see if Mike Tomlin shows up or Kevin Colbert or both show up at the Michigan Pro Day. So look for that, maybe an update on that on SteelersDepot.com. So in the meantime, you can follow me on the Twitter machine at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora on Twitter. Follow the podcast at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upright navigational bar. And if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button. For $25 for one calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. It's been very, very popular. Thanks for all the emails and all like that. Remember, we take listener-submitted terrible takes for Saturday as well, too. I think we got one option here right now. So if you want to get one in, get us a 3 minutes or less MP3 together of your terrible take and send it to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. You better hurry, though, if you want to make it in for the Saturday terrible take. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.